All right, good afternoon. It's Friday, 4:30 p.m. Central Time, and I am doing my second live Q&A live stream, live Q&A stream, whatever we want to call it. I do want to come up with kind of a name for this show, like, the weekly something or other. I'll figure that out. But I guess before I do that, I want to get consistent with this. So upgrade from last week, I have created an outline that I'm actually going to work from, and it's got some like bullet points and everything. It's going to be like there's structure now, so that's going to be fun. And I've already messed up though, because I was supposed to start off with welcoming you. Well, I guess I kind of did that. Welcome, and then I have to introduce myself and say, I am Ben Tolson, and you are on my channel, or watching me on Facebook or Twitter. But wherever you are, what I'm trying to do with my videos is to help creators make better video content. And that's going to come in the form of anything from tutorials to equipment reviews and recommendations, even to things related to productivity, marketing. A little bit broad, and I'm doing that on purpose because I am kind of on a journey myself, trying to figure out, well, what kind of content do I want to make? What kind of specific niche do I want to fit into? So you're along that journey with me, and along the way, I'm gonna share what I know. I'm gonna try to provide value. I'm gonna try to help you in whatever way I can. And so I feel like having at least even kind of a broad focus is good. And kind of opening a loop here, I am going to be covering something semi-related to that idea during the Q&A session. But before we get into the Q&A session, I wanted to share a couple of updates. One is just a fun story that happened recently. I don't know if you'd call it fun. So I was in the middle of writing all of the scripts for my very first online course. And the way that I did this online course was I made video lessons, and I outlined and scripted all of those. And so I was in the elbow deep in the work of making all of the scripts. And I was working on a Sunday, and my parents called me up and were like, "Hey, we want to take the boys to the zoo, but we don't have a vehicle big enough. Can you meet us there?" So I was like, well, yeah, okay, so I'll drive the boys, we'll meet you there. I'll go into the zoo with you, and I'll just find a bench to sit down on, and I'll work on my scripts there. It was a beautiful day, like not too hot outside or anything. So we did that. The boys got to go with the grandparents, and I was sitting down on one of the benches next to the reptile house, and it was just lovely. It was so nice. I was sitting there, I was working on my stuff. And one of the things I do when I sit down, because I hate like having things in my pockets when I sit down. So I took my phone and my wallet and my keys, and I like set them down next to me, and I worked. And then it started getting close to like closing time, and I was like, okay, well, I should, pick up my stuff. And so I packed up and I walked off to another spot where I would be like closer to the exit, and I could see them as they were coming, so we didn't miss each other. And then I realized while I was there, I was like, oh, I don't have my wallet. So I went back over to the bench beside the reptile house, and the wallet was not there. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I took it with me. So I went back over to the other spot, couldn't find my wallet, went up to one of the zoo employees and was like, hey, do y'all have a lost and found, or someplace where like, somebody turns in a wallet? They said, yeah, go to the main house. I went to the main house. Nobody had turned anything in, but they took my information down, and I was like, okay, fine. So we left the zoo. I went back home and immediately like jumped on to the credit card accounts to make sure that like nobody had taken the credit cards and started spending stuff. Nothing had happened yet. I went ahead and ordered I ordered a new driver's license and a new social security card, which you're not supposed to carry around in your wallet, apparently. But I was like, man, this thing is just gone. Like if somebody didn't turn it in right away, if they haven't called me within a few hours, like it's probably somebody picked it up, realized there wasn't any cash in it, and like dumped it somewhere. So we're having dinner, and I'm like explaining what happened, and my oldest son, who didn't go with the grandparents, he actually stayed home, but he was like, Daddy, don't you have that thing in your wallet that makes the really annoying, that plays the really annoying song? And I was like, oh yeah, the tile. So the tile, it's this little thing that you can put on a keychain, you can put in your wallet. It's got an app that comes with it, and it's basically a tracking device for whatever it happens to be attached to. And through the app, if the app can locate it, you can like press a button and it'll play a song so you can find where it is. And I was like, I can't believe I didn't think about that, because like I was definitely like close enough to where it would have been that I may have been able to hear it, or somebody may have been able to hear it. So like I pulled it up on the app, and sure enough, it was still at the zoo in the main house. So I was like, okay, great. Well, I'm gonna go back tomorrow. So I went the very next day and like followed the thing right to where it was, and I looked up and I was like, hey, did somebody turn in a wallet? And they're like, yes, can you describe it? I got my wallet back. So, and then a few days later, Apple announces the Apple AirTag, which is like Apple's version of Tile. And so probably going to spend some money with Apple again soon. So anyways, long story short, got my wallet back. Hooray. Nothing was missing. Had everything there. And that was a happy ending. Remind me another time to tell you about the time when I mailed my wallet to Austin. That's a whole different thing. So anyways, just wanted to share that story. That's something that happened recently. In other news, I launched my very first online course, and so I didn't really have an idea of like, okay, this is what success will be. Like if I get this number of sales or whatever. I was just like, success to me is just making this thing and putting it out there. If I can do that, I feel like, we're good. So I got it made, I got it launched the day that I said I was going to launch it. And so that was really exciting. And I also got a few sales. Have had people actually go through the course, ask questions, and that has been amazing. One of the things I didn't do that I wish I would have done more of, but I didn't give myself room to, was market the course and let people know about it ahead of time. And so if you're not familiar with what I made the online course about, it's a course helping people make have better camera, better lighting, better sound quality for their Zoom calls. One, so that they look more professional, but two, so that they can record and turn that long form video into shorter pieces of content that they can share through YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So that's what that course is all about. And you can check it out if you're interested. It's at bentolson.podia.com. And I believe it's called the Zoom Setup Mini Course. But I decided 10 days before the launch day that I was like, okay, I procrastinated enough. I need to start making it. And so I spent 10 days before the launch day making it, and 0 days actually marketing it, which is fine. I wasn't necessarily trying to make a big push or anything, but the day that I launched it, I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more deliberate in terms of the marketing side. And so I actually decided to call it kind of a soft launch. I didn't publicize about it on Twitter. I didn't do any like big marketing effort or like blast or whatever. I only sent a message to my email list and let them know about it. So I'm going to spend the next, it's like 25 days now, creating and executing a marketing plan, doing some more beta testing, getting some feedback from people who've gone through the course, and kind of refining certain things to make it a little bit more obvious. Like even the way that I described it just a second ago, like it's just not quite as concise and clear as I think it needs to be to reach the people that it would actually help. So that's the work I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to do like an official launch sometime in May. So I will keep you posted on that. But that is it for updates. So we've made it through 2 out of 5 bullets, and now we get into the Q&A. So I got some really interesting questions, just 3 that I'm going to be covering in this video. I'm going to be talking about what kind of content should I make. I'm going to be answering the question, should I sell products if I'm still growing in the exploratory phase? And then I'm going to be answering the question, how can I actually get stuff done? And I'm going to be answering all of these as a person who knows how to answer those things and has some strategies, but still also struggles to put those strategies into practice. You know, so I'm still on this journey. I'm not an expert by any means, but I feel like the answers that I've come up with, I think, could unlock something for you if you find yourself struggling with those things too, and maybe you find yourself in a place where some of the ideas and insights I share could unlock some, or could remove roadblocks for you and help you make more or make better content. So let's get into the first question. What should my content strategy look like, or what type of content should I make? So I answered a similar question in the last Q&A video, and the similar question that I answered in the last Q&A video was really a statement. It was, I feel like I'm making content just to be making content. And so I'll kind of start out by recapping this idea that I don't think there's anything wrong with making content just to be making content, even if you don't have a specific focus. Would you call that a content strategy? Well, it depends. So I think when it comes down to the idea of strategy, strategy is going to be different depending on what your goals are. And if you don't have a specific thing, a specific topic, or a specific niche that you're going to focus in, it's a little bit more difficult to apply some kind of strategy, because it's a lot easier to measure growth. It's a lot easier to measure engagement when you're focused on a single thing that the same audience keeps coming back to you for. So, I want to kind of talk about it from both sides. So let's say you don't have a specific niche thing. Like I answered in the previous video, I think it's absolutely worth making content. So just free yourself of the idea that you have to have a specific topic in order to make content. and just use the ability to make content, and kind of the, like it's a little bit like the pressure's off, right, in the beginning when you don't have a lot of followers, when you don't have an established audience. There's a lot less pressure to provide the specific thing that audience has come to you for. And I think that there are ways that you can always redefine that and like redirect that. But especially in the beginning, like you've got all this freedom, and I think it's okay just to say, all right, from week to week, or twice a week, or 3 times a week, or every day, or whatever your rhythm is, I'm just going to make a video about whatever. And what you can do to turn that into a strategy is you can keep track of how people are engaging with that content. So let's say you're posting once per week, and 1 week you post something about some meal you cooked and the ingredients you used, and so it's like food based. And then the next week you post about some piece of artwork you created, and then the next week you post about some of the things that you did because you're like searching for a job. So some of the things you did to try to like find the right job, put together your resume, and things that you did in the application process. I'm just like coming up with these things off the top of my head, so I apologize. But like those are 3 completely different things that serve completely different audiences. And what you'll find, like as you continue posting content, you'll either find that you tend to get more excited and more enthusiastic about a specific topic, or you'll see that people tend to react or engage with a specific topic, and or like both of those things happen. Like you find that you tend to get more excited about publishing about food related stuff, and people seem to be really responsive to that. And that's also not a mistake. Like a lot of times people are more engaged and enthusiastic when they see that you are enthusiastic about something. So what makes this a strategy is you're keeping track of those things. Like you're looking for engagement. You are taking time after you create each piece of content to kind of look inward and say, okay, well, how did I feel about this process? What was, was I excited about it? Did it feel like I was making it just like because I had to make something this week? Keep track of that stuff. Over time, you'll start to see the pattern, and then that becomes kind of where you can start to shift your focus. Another way you can do it, and this is kind of what I'm doing right now on my channel, is you can pick something and say, okay, I'm going to start making content about XYZ topic. But define the time frame. So say or not necessarily just the time frame, like define the duration. So it could be a specific time frame, it could be a specific number of videos or pieces of content that you're going to make. But say, okay, for this many videos or for this amount of time, I'm just going to make videos about this one topic. And define what would qualify at the end of that duration continuing with that, or what would qualify setting that aside and shifting to something else. So you might say, I'm going to do this for 3 months, and at the end of it, and I don't know, like I don't I don't want to point you toward arbitrary things like subscriber count. But maybe you could look at, like, if I have 5 meaningful conversations that come from me posting this content. So somebody posted a comment and said that, something you shared really resonated with them and you were able to have some back and forth. Like, that is really powerful. So let's say you set that as the thing. So at the end of the 3 months, if I've had at least 5 really meaningful conversations, I'll do it for another 3 months and see what happens. Or like if it's just crickets and nothing is happening, but you get to the end of that 3 months and you're like, I don't know, I really love talking about this stuff. Like there's no rule that says you can't continue creating content around that specific thing. But I find that creating those constraints, creating those rules, kind of lets you relax a little bit and gives you permission just to focus on the one thing. So that really helps for me because I do love like bouncing from thing to thing, and I've got a bunch of different things I'd love to talk about, but having the constraints helps keep me focused, and I think makes it easier to kind of test whether or not there are relationships there that I can start to build with my audience, a community that might start to build around a specific topic. So that's how I would answer that question. All right, so now we are on to question number 2. This one is not necessarily as much related to videos, but I really like this question. I think there are some ways that it can also apply to video, so I'm going to go ahead and take it. The question is, should I sell products if I'm still growing in the exploratory phase? So I think the context of this question was like, it's somebody who they're still not sure what specifically they want to focus on. So kind of like in the last question, like we're still not sure if there's a specific topic or theme, but they have maybe like they're artistic and they create digital art pieces or physical art pieces or something like that. Like, is it okay, even as they're growing their audience in the beginning, as they're still exploring, is it okay for them to sell stuff? And my answer to this is, I think yes, but I think it's important if you're going to sell something and eventually move on from that thing, I think it's important to be committed to supporting the products you're going to sell. And what that means is, and it's, it's different depending on the type of product. So if you're selling physical art pieces or like, your artwork on a t-shirt or something like that, and, let's say you make videos about those things and you have a store set up, like if you're going to continue to try selling the t-shirts, you keep those videos up, but let's say topic wise, you've moved on to something completely different. Somebody might still find those old videos and might be like, oh, I want to purchase that t-shirt. And so I think it's just good. I think it's good brand maintenance to continue to support whatever is a continuing sales channel. If it's an online course and, somebody purchases it and maybe they purchase it and like 6 months later, they finally sit down and they're like, okay, I'm going to go through this. At that point, you might have moved on to something else, but it's important to continue to support that and be available to answer questions as they go through it and stuff like that. And so if you're going to sell a product, I think the important question you need to ask yourself is, can I commit to supporting this product for whoever might purchase it now or, later in the future. And I think as long as you can answer yes to that, even if you're still just figuring things out, I say go for it. Anything we as creators can do to provide value and let people support us and help us continue to grow and, take care of ourselves while we're, sharing our art or sharing our knowledge or whatever, I think it's a good thing. Okay. And then the last and final question is, so this one was actually a statement and I kind of turned it into a question, but I'm just going to read the statement as is. And I can so relate to this. It says, I never schedule anything and then wonder why I can't get anything done. So I think scheduling is really powerful. But I also wonder sometimes if the reason we don't get things done is not because we haven't scheduled them, but because we don't feel like we can schedule it yet. And let me explain what I mean by that. So sometimes, like with the online course thing, the reason I procrastinated on making it for so long was because in my mind, it was like this huge thing. And so I was like, well, when am I going to do that big thing? And what I needed to do before I could answer that question is I needed to actually sit down and break it out into smaller pieces. I think that first step by itself makes coming up with the when so much easier. So like really it's just your what is too big. I think that really is the root of the problem. And so you have to take your what it is you want to get done. And it doesn't, the size of it is relative to the person. So like I make so many videos that it doesn't feel like a big thing to me. But when you're just starting out, making a video feels like a monumental undertaking, like it could feel huge. So whatever that is to you, that big thing, figure out a way to break it out into smaller pieces. And so for me, making the online course, one of the smaller pieces was, well, I need to list all of the things that I need to do in order to make this happen in the first place. And so like I literally made, like I got a piece of paper and at the top I wrote list, and my first bullet point was make a list of all the things. And as soon as I sat down and I said, okay, I just need to figure out when I'm going to make that happen. When am I going to sit down and list out all of the things? And I scheduled 30 minutes for myself to do that. I sat down, and once I saw that list, then I could take a single thing or even a handful of things and say, oh, these things can happen at this time. And that really unlocked it for me. So that's something that, like I got to continue to iterate on and work on for my own processes and workflows. But another thing that works really well, and so this is not necessary, I mean, this is going back to the scheduling thing. The reason I'm so productive with my work stuff is I have dedicated time set aside specifically to work on different parts of my process throughout the week. So another thing you could do is you could say, okay, this isn't getting done. When in my week can I set aside even just 15 minutes and say, okay, for this 15 minutes, every Tuesday from 4 to 4:15, the only thing I'm doing is this task. And commit to that, block off that time, protect it. It's amazing how the rhythm of that and having that time blocked off from week to week can really help you make progress and get things done. So that's another approach I would take. So I think that is it for me for today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. So this is, I think the format of this I really like. My wallet story might have been a little bit too long, but I like this, like 3 questions. And then as you know, as this grows, as we go along, if we've got more interaction in the chat and we can answer questions there, you know, I can take that as well. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out today. And we will see you